It's gonna get harder and harder to retire in Singapore with the high cost of living expenses that Singapore has. So this has also prompted the government to increase the retirement age for Singaporeans, and by the year 2023, which is 7 years from now, the retirement age will be 65 years old. And by that time, your employer isn't able to suggest that you retire early or dismiss you from work based on age. So this has raised a lot of concerns because our people are working into their golden years and many do not get to enjoy their retirement. To be fair, we all can retire early if we wanted to with just some adjustments to our lifestyle, which includes bringing down our expenses or starting a side business which can bring in additional income. And if you're on the side of starting a small business, then you have to hear about our sponsor for today, Awesome. So one of the easiest business to start and requires the least effort is e-commerce. All you need to do is to get a product, put it online for sale and promote it. But the toughest part here is filing those reports. Be it taxes, be it your invoices or even your business documents, these can take up a lot of time. Which is why Awesome is your best friend in this case. So Awesome accountants take care of all your finance admin matters through the Awesome app, and they're always on hand to answer your questions and even give you free financial advice based on your company's account. To get started with Awesome, all you need to do is to link your online store, your bank accounts and your payment systems, and Awesome takes care of the rest for you. So once that is done, all your spending, your profits will all be tracked automatically, and the best part is your financial performance can be viewed in real time. So this not only saves you time, but it also saves you money because you just require one single app to track all your financial matters, giving you more time to focus on growing your business. So you can get started with Awesome with the link in the description down below to get 16% off your first year of corporate secretary and accounting services with them. And thank you Awesome for sponsoring today's video. So like anything in life, we do need a plan, and this plan doesn't have to be elaborate at the start. It can just be an idea of a certain metric like the age that you want to retire, or maybe even things like how much you need to survive each month, and maybe include some variable expenses as well. So for the majority of us, there are three main expenses that we'll have, which is fixed monthly expenses, variable expenses, and unexpected expenses. So the fixed monthly expenses refers to things that needs to be paid off every single month without fail. So this will include things like your mortgage, your mobile phone bills, your utilities, and insurance. So these items will be here more or less pretty fixed and with very little to minimal change month on month. And then we got variable expenses, which includes your things like food, your entertainment, your transportation, or shopping for gifts and all that stuff. So these are mainly things that might or might not happen within a month. So for example, you could have 2 birthday parties to attend in the month of May, which is my birthday as well. But then in the month of June, you might not have any birthdays that might be happening. So when this happens, the expenses for May might be a little bit more as compared to the expenses for June. Unless you are having a lot more fun in June, then things will change a little bit. And lastly, we have unexpected expenses. So these are expenses that can pop up anytime and usually falls within the realm of health related kind of expenses. So it could be things like visit to the dentist, or maybe having some illness that needs to be taken care of. So once we got all those numbers plotted down, we need to have an idea of the range of how much we need to prepare to survive per month without any income coming in. So we are just assuming that when we retire, we are not going to work a single day of our lives.
Work? What kind of work?
So looking at average Singaporeans, these are the expenses that we might have. So we might have roughly a mortgage, which is $1,500, $200 for utilities, maybe $50 for mobile phones, $1,000 for insurance. So this will give us a mix of roughly $2,750 for our fixed expenses, or roughly $33,000 a year. So this calculation is based that the mortgage is being paid by cash. But if let's say the house is fully covered by CPF, then this number goes down to $15,000 a year, or $1,250 per month. And then we include things like the variable and the unexpected expenses. So maybe $400 on food, $200 on entertainment, $200 for shopping, $1,000 for vacation, maybe once a quarter, and maybe $100 per quarter for medical purposes. So after adding all that in, it comes up to roughly $14,800 per year, or $1,230 per month. So in total, we are looking at roughly $2,500 per month for a very basic style of retirement. So now we know the magic number that we need to hit is roughly $2,500 a month, which will cover our expenses, granted that we have no income coming in. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to exclude CPF payouts as an income because everybody will have a different BRS, FRS or ERS in the CPF. But what we will take is to take into assumption that we only use our CPF to pay off our mortgage. So looking at Singapore's life expectancy is roughly 83.5 years. So depending on when you choose to retire will greatly affect how much you need. So let's say if we choose to retire at the age of 45, this means that we've got roughly 38 years to live before we reach the end of life. And based on the calculation of roughly $30,000 of annual spending, this means that we'll need to have at least $1.14 million to last us 38 years. But if we choose to retire at 55, then this number drops to 840,000. And at age 65, this number becomes 540,000, and retiring at 75 years old, which I think everybody shouldn't be aiming for this, you need at least $250,000. So as discouraging as it might seem, there is a few ways that we can chip our way towards that $1 million mark so that we can all retire at 45 years old.
I've been chipping away.
So the first few things that we can do is to really start investing as early as possible. So depending on what you're interested in, there are many things that we can choose and pick from, but definitely each of these different sectors and industry will have its pros and cons. But always do your own research before throwing any money into all these stocks or even putting money into the market. However, if you're just starting out, you can consider getting some broad market index funds or ETFs like VOO if you are okay with the volatility in the US market, or you could pick STI ETF if you prefer a safer option of investing in Singapore. So both these investments are very similar because they are both ETFs, which stands for Exchange Traded Funds. So these funds consist of the top companies in the different regions, and VOO tracks the top 500 companies in the US, while STI ETF picks the top 30 performing companies in Singapore. In my case, I'm split down the middle with a 50-50 split. So I like dividends a lot because it gives me cash flow that allows me to do things like, reinvesting or cover some of my expenses. Like right now, when I'm out of job, it's a good thing to have a dividend portfolio or having some passive income coming in that helps to pay off some bills, which is what STI is good at. So STI ETF gives roughly a 3.5% dividend on an annual basis, which is pretty okay for me. At the same time, having these dividends means that we might lose out on growth opportunities because if we look at STI ETF, the price of the ETF barely moves. This means that we won't be able to get high growth year on year as compared to VOO, which has an average 10-year return of 12.52%. So for this very reason, I split my portfolio into a 50-50 split into STI ETF, which pays me some dividends, and VOO, which gives me some growth potential. So this allows me to have the best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds.
And as a bonus, when the dividend is collected from STI ETF, I can always reinvest it to get more STI ETF, which allows me to make it become my money printer. And hopefully it can help me retire or fund my retirement fund. So now we know that we got to start investing early, but you might be torn between growth and dividend stocks. So if you're looking to go into a full dividend play, these can work out pretty well as well, but it will require a lot of grinding in the early years. So going back to the magic number of $30,000 a year, this means that we'll need to have around $750,000 invested with an average 4% dividend rate, and this will give us $30,000 a year that we require, and our capital will kind of remain untouched, if you will. So to hit that number might not be very hard at all. So let's say, for example, if we invest $1,000 a month for 40 years and compound the dividends every half yearly, we'll hit a grand total of $1.1 million. Granted that this might be far-fetched because things will change and can change along the way. But if we do like $500 a month, this will bring us to roughly $580,000, which is still pretty decent. And at this amount, we'll be getting roughly $22,000 in dividends, which can cover our annual expenses. But if you're not into dividends or you don't like dividends at all because it's slow, it requires a large sum of investment, growth stocks or portfolios might be something to look at. So you can do stock picking if you're into that kind of thing, but it's not something I'm very good at, so I stick to companies that I know or ETFs that covers a sizable industry. So with VOO as an example, it covers the top 500 companies in the US, and just by holding one VOO, which is priced at roughly $370 right now, you get to own a little portion of Apple, a little portion of Tesla, a little bit of Google, a little bit of Amazon, a little bit of Berkshire Hathaway, a little bit of Nvidia, and much more. So this takes away the headache of investing because by doing so, I diversify my money into multiple companies that I use and I know of. So with a growth portfolio, the strategy will be a little bit different now because unlike dividend stocks or ETFs, we won't have income coming in regularly. But if I retire on a growth portfolio, then it will become a safe withdrawal rate, or SWR. So the ideal situation for growth stocks is that the stocks grows over time, and let's say for example you pay $370 for one VOO today. Hopefully by the next year at the same date, VOO is worth more. So if VOO is worth more, you can sell your VOO to use that money to sustain your retirement. So many fund managers or financial advisors will advise a 4% SWR or safe withdrawal rate. So this rate allows your money to consistently grow and at the same time doesn't deplete your capital, which gives you more for the following year. So for example, if you have $500,000 invested in VOO that performs at 8 to 10%, by the end of the year, you would roughly or ideally have $550,000 worth of VOO. And from there, you can then withdraw 4% or $22,000 for your retirement expenses. So this will bring the value of your portfolio down to $528,000, of which if it performs at 8 to 10% again, in the following year, it will give you $580,000, where you withdraw 4%, which is roughly $23,000, leaving you with $557,000 to continue growing, and the cycle repeats. So these are the two strategies that we can use to ensure to grow our wealth and reach that retirement amount that we need to live for our golden years. But the most important thing that I want you to take away from today's video is to get started on your investing journey. So this brings us to the end of today's video. We'll greatly appreciate if you can drop us a like for the algorithm, subscribe to get notified, and as always, stay safe, invest safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.